Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Tuesday, July the 29th, 2025, which makes this the news for Monday, July 28th, day 1251 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you live from this major European capital that is currently under siege. And in fact, we are under air alert tonight. Last night was quite a night. It was certainly very loud here in Kyiv. We saw the Russians send 324 attack and decoy drones. But Ukrainian armed forces came through with a 95% interception rate. We also saw 7 missiles come in last night. Most of them hit at an air base out in the west of the country. Only 2 out of the 7 were intercepted for a 40% interception rate. How's everybody doing tonight? I see the peeps are coming in. Hey, Chris Carter. Hey, Fairway Caddy. Nicola Jones. Richard Prexis. Steve Kennedy. How do you do? Hey, Roy Daniels. Hey, Nightshade. Hey, Neil Steven. Hey, Maddie Wright. How's everybody doing? Hey, G2. Hey, Scully. Hey, Tom. How you doing, buddy? How's life in Canada? Hey, Lil Red. Nice to see you. Hey, Jackie. Evie. Hey, Bjorn. Hey, Killak. How is everybody doing tonight? Hey, Dawn. Hey, Kent R. Hey, Ted Greenow can't be here tonight, but he is our sponsor of tonight's live. So if you see Ted around, give him a thank you. I don't have any sponsors for the rest of the week. So if anybody can see their way clear to sponsoring a live, the PayPal's in the description. Sure do appreciate it. Hey, Poppy Josh. How's everybody doing? Boy, Trump was running his mouth today, wasn't he? He does like to talk and talk. Now let's see if he can walk the walk. That's what we all got to see. So it was interesting today. We all know, right, on July 3rd, Trump talked to Putin. And you all know, it's my opinion, that Putin told Trump, look, I need the summer for my summer offensive. I need to claim the Donbass, Zaporizhia, Luhansk, and Kherson. Once I got that done, right, we can talk about a ceasefire. So I need 60 days. So 10 days later, July 14th, Trump announces 50 days. No problem, buddy Vlad. Hey, Mike now. Well, Trump seems to have changed his tune. From the steps of the Turnberry Golf Course today, where he met with Keir Starmer and Ursula von der Leyen from the EU, he announced that he was shortening the 50-day pause on tariffs and sanctions against Russia, and he was giving Vladimir Putin 10 or 12 days, I don't know, we'll see, to come to the peace table, to declare a ceasefire. Now look, the Russians do not give a fuck. The Russians absolutely do not care. There was a member of parliament on Olga Skaviva's show last night talking about how Trump makes threats, but none of it ever becomes a reality. And then we heard Lavrov say, we saw 24 hours, we saw 100 days, now it's 50 days. Next, it'll be another 50 days. But Trump is saying no. He's had it. He's fed up with Vladimir Putin. And he is going to put those sanctions on Russia in 10 or 12 days. Now, look, what he does matters. If all he does is put 100% tariffs on Russia, it's completely meaningless. The Russians will not care. No one will notice because we don't buy anything from fucking Russia anymore. Our entire trade last year with Russia was only $3 billion. It's down 90% from the $30 billion a year we used to do with Russia in trade before the full-scale invasion. So $3 billion in business, $3 billion in tariffs. It's barely going to make a dent. The Russians are not going to care. The secondary sanctions, though, that are in the Graham-Blumenthal bill, those matter. Now, of course, Trump has seen to it that that bill has been gutted of any real meaning. How? Instead of making the sanctions mandatory, what the Congress has done is sold out all the power to the president. Trump can assign secondary sanctions on those who buy Russian gas and oil, like China, India, and Brazil. And according to Lindsey Graham, everything is completely up to the president. He can put 100% tariff on those, or 100% tariff on those countries as a secondary sanction to punish them for buying Russian oil, or he can make it as much as 500%. Now, the reality of that is that it's bullshit. U.S. puts 100% tariff on China on top of their current tariffs. It's going to be a trade war that's going to backfire in his face. So we can't really do it. So it looks to me like a lot of bluff and bluster, a lot of nonsense. And the Russians are certainly not taking it seriously. I think because they understand this conundrum, right? They will not give a shit about tariffs on Russian goods because we don't buy Russian goods. And the reality of these high secondary tariffs is that they are unworkable. They will only fan the flames of a trade war and push us all faster over the cliff of global economic recession that Trump is doing his damnedest to make sure we get into. Regarding these pronouncements today from Trump about the tariffs, the Russians responded. Peskov said that bilateral talks with Ukraine are too theoretical at this point. Now, hang on. Didn't the Ukrainians and the Russians just host bilateral peace talks in Istanbul last week? They did. So for this Kremlin mouthpiece to say that the idea of bilateral talks are too theoretical at this juncture demonstrates the deep hypocrisy of the Russians and their real lack of interest in doing anything to bring about an end to this war, a diplomatic end to this war. Peskov went on to say that until the objectives of the special military operation are achieved, we can't sit down and talk to Kyiv. So the Russians are saying loud and clear, they cannot, they will not sit down and talk seriously to Kyiv until Kyiv surrenders. Well, this, of course, is ludicrous. This is delusional. This is nonsense of the first order. Kyiv is not going to surrender. Where else did Donald fuck up today? In his conversations with the EU, they settled on a 15% tariff, reciprocal tariff deal, right? 15%. At the same time, Trump announces 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. Now, just suppose you're a car manufacturer. You're in Detroit. You're Ford Motor Company. Somebody like that. You can make your cars in America, and pay an additional 25% for all your basic ingredients, steel and aluminum. Or you could move your whole fucking operation to Europe, build the cars there cheaper, and then ship them back to the United States with only a 15% tariff. What the fuck is this guy doing? And as everybody who follows this channel knows, it is my firm belief that Trump's goal is to bankrupt the United States. He wants to bankrupt American industry so that he can hold the greatest fire sale in history, sell off American infrastructure, business, and assets to his billionaire buddies, the tech bros, and his friends from Saudi Arabia and the Russian oligarchs. Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the United States are the three largest producers of oil in the world. And what we are seeing is the malign foreign influence on this administration that is effectively a coup. The United States federal system of government has been subverted by malign foreign agents in the form of Donald Trump. You want to talk about wars for oil? This is a war for oil and gas. He's been, I'm so glad somebody got rid of that. He's a destroyer, not a builder, Bip. Exactly, just like Putin. They're destroyers. They're the Gordon Geckos of the world. They look at the hard work, the labor, the industry, the thoughtful consideration, the thrift of the working class, and they say, we're going to take everything from you because we need a cheap workforce, cheap labor. We need human beings to be commoditized, to be able to buy and sell your lives because that's all you are to us. Ugh. Well, the little green men, James, were sent in because of gas, natural gas, right? In 2012, new natural gas reserves were found all around Crimea. Putin's big moneymaker was pipeline gas to Europe. He could not have a world in which Ukraine stole his European business. And so he invaded Crimea and started the Donbass War. Clearly, because of that. Now it's interesting you mentioned this because out of that history today, we saw the most amazing deal get signed. Naftogaz, which is Ukraine's largest natural gas supplier. It's a partially state-owned agency, right? Naftogaz signed a deal with SOCAR to get natural gas into Ukraine and through Ukraine to Europe across the Trans-Balkan pipeline. Where does the Trans-Balkan pipeline originate? In Azerbaijan. It's Azeri gas. Now, we've been talking on this channel about how the Azeris are, and as Azerbaijan is a domino to watch. And increasingly, the Azeris are flexing their political muscles in the Central Caucasus there and diverting Russian influence or subliminating Russian influence in the Caucasus to themselves. And this Trans-Balkan pipeline deal is a great example of that. Just think, Azeri gas coming through Ukraine into Europe, replacing Russian gas. All the money the Russians used to make going into the pockets of the Azeris. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So that's a great side note on that subject. Let me see. Did I get everything on that? Well, we'll come to it. We'll come back to it again. Okay. Now, the EU deal. Now, dig this. Trump gets out fucking maneuvered everywhere he goes by everybody. The EU cuts this trade deal, right? 15% tariffs. But that's not all they did. They locked in the purchase of $750 billion in energy from the U.S. most of it in LNG, liquefied natural gas. That's $250 billion a year for 3 years. What is the big problem that the Europeans have right now? Russian gas sales to places like Hungary, Slovakia, Moldova, those if not pro-Russian, Russian sympathetic governments, right, that are trying to keep the Russian gas station in business. They need to be able to supply cheap natural gas to those places. They just cut a deal with Slovakia and Hungary to pass the 18th sanctions package against Russia with the promise of cheap natural gas, price controlled through Brussels for the next several years. How are they going to do it? They're going to do it by buying American. That's how they're going to do it. This is a huge win for Ukraine because it means the end of Russian energy sales to Europe in favor of American energy sales to Europe. That literally picks Putin's pocket, which is fun to say. Try it. Picks Putin's pocket. It literally picks Putin's pocket of billions of dollars in oil and gas revenues to Europe that they're still, right, at least it's not hundreds of billions of dollars anymore like it was at the start of the war. But in the next few years, they are going to end all of that energy purchases in Europe. And they're going to supplement it for the next 3 years with American energy purchases. All right, I'll take that money. They're also going to buy $600 billion in weapons. Now, this is all under Tangerine Palpatine, is fun to say. You're not wrong. Hey, Trav. $600 billion in weapons from the U.S. All righty. Well, where are those weapons going to go? Right, some portion. Now, of course, all this is being done under the umbrella of spending more money for NATO and for defense, on NATO and for defense, right? The only thing is, the Europeans, some of this money is going to be for weapons packages for Ukraine. Like we saw the Germans deliver 3 full Patriot batteries this past week, which was absolutely astonishing to me. Absolutely astonishing to me. Where did they get them from? How did they get here? There's like 100 of these things in the whole world. Everybody's been scrambling for them for years. And now 3 just show up on 10 days' notice? It seems impossible to me. I think they have to be the Israeli Patriots that went back to the U.S. when they decommissioned the program in Israel, and they went back to the U.S. for retrofitting and software upgrades. And maybe, I don't know, if that's true, maybe that's why this initial $10 billion package, Europeans buying weapons for Ukraine, is so much shit. Because it didn't really cost very much for the maintenance on those and upgrades on those Patriots, if they are the Israeli Patriots. I'll bet you they are. Where else could they come from? Where are you going to get 3 Patriot batteries out of thin fucking air like that? We believe that the Israelis sent 8 Patriot batteries back to the United States for refurbishment. And that would make sense. But I don't know, right? We don't really know where these Patriots came from. So in this trade deal with Europe, he has effectively driven inflation in the United States on all European goods from where it's sitting at about 3%, I think, right now, to 18%. Because now you're paying another 15% for everything that comes from Europe. Brilliant. But again, hidden inside this package, I would say, are 2 big wins for Ukraine. The purchase of American energy and the purchase of American weapons, both of which will directly benefit Ukraine. Now, this is a very interesting story, and we don't know it to be true. But more than one Russian media outlet is making the claim. Remember that attack last week that closed down the Sochi airport where the Ukrainians hit the oil depot right at Sochi? Massive explosion. And then a fire that burned for a couple of days after. The Russians are claiming that one of the incoming Ukrainian drones was equipped with a pulse jammer. And these pulse jammers send out bursts of, let's call it high energy radio waves. And that jams things like radar, air defense systems, etc. And the Russians are claiming that one of the drones that attacked Sochi last week was equipped with one of these pulse jammers, and that it disabled some of their air defense. Now, if this is true, I'm not sure about that, Seawolf. I'm not sure exactly what was used here. But this is what the Russians are saying. Now, if it's true, and the Ukrainians have these things and can send drones out ahead of attack drones to pulse and disable radars and air defense at the target location, that is a tactical that's a tactically superior position to be in. So I'm going to watch for more information on these pulse jammers and try to learn more about them so that we can talk better about it. But I think we're going to see and hear more about this coming up. Now, yesterday was the last Sunday in July. And the last Sunday in July in Russia is Navy Day. Navy Day is very much like Victory Day, right? Victory Day on May 9th. Victory over the Germans in World War II is celebrated. Big military parades, show off a lot of weapons, show off how good the guys can march, even if they can't fucking fight. They can march in lockstep, goose-stepping down the parade field while looking with admiration at the dear leaders and the generals in the stands. Motherfuckers. Such nonsense. Navy Day is a big deal in Russia, especially in St. Petersburg. Big parades, show off of equipment, boat shows in the harbor, it's et cetera, et cetera. For the first time in its history, the Navy Day parade yesterday was canceled. Russia is too afraid to hold a parade. Too afraid, let's be clear, of Ukrainian drones to hold a parade. There wasn't going to be a Xi Jinping sitting next to Putin acting as his personal air defense for this one. And so they couldn't go through with it. Scared. They're increasingly scared. As a matter of fact, did I not write down his name? Okay, so I apologize. I don't have this gentleman's name. But he writes for The Insider. The Insider did a series of interviews with Russian, policemen, municipal workers, local officials, all along the border regions with Ukraine. So Bryansk, Kursk, Belgorod, those kinds of areas, right? And there were some very interesting quotes that came out of these interviews. Right, so for example, one guy said that psychologists come in every year and test them to make sure that they are still special military operation. They're still on board. This is important because the Russians are now locking up people who speak defeatist language. In fact, a Russian soldier was just fined 2.5 million rubles. I don't know. Does somebody have a nightshade? You got a calculator handy? How much money is 2.5 million rubles today? Like 40 grand, something like that, 40, 50 grand, something like that in US dollars. Why did he get fined 2.5 million rubles? For his defeatist speech. He dared suggest anything but Russian victory was possible. So this official said that these state psychologists come in and give them these loyalty tests, basically, to make sure that they're still on board. But according to at least one of these officials, indifference has settled in at the highest levels. No one expects anything to get any better. 30 grand. Thanks, James. One Russian official, this is my favorite quote. Putin must be living in his own reality. Here, there is no optimism, just a strong feeling that this whole nightmare we are living through, we will one day look back on as the good old days. That is the sensibility of all those living along that front line with Ukraine. That the end is coming, and it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. And the fact that the Russian military had to cancel for the first time in history the Navy Day parade yesterday and it's unclear to me why, but it appears that Putin is in Arkhangelsk. Now, if you've never heard of Arkhangelsk, archangels, right? It's this city in Siberia, like up by the Arctic Circle, that is supposed to be an absolute nightmare of post-industrial irresponsibility. The Russians, it's a city of heavy industry, mining, and apparently they have just polluted the water, the air, and the land so badly that for a country with such a low life expectancy, Arkhangelsk ranks as one of the lowest life expectancies for all of Russia. And it was I believe, Cheshire Cheese, originally it was a gulag. It was a gulag town, right? They started as a gulag and it built up as this Soviet industrial zone. So it's like a fucking nightmare. I can't imagine why anybody would go there at all. And I couldn't find out what he was doing there, just that it was reported that the president was in Arkhangelsk. Now, maybe he's just hiding. Or maybe it's a bullshit story to throw off where he really is. Who knows? But it did catch my attention, and I did wonder if anybody has any information about that. Let me know. In the Liman direction, now dig this, right? So Liman there's a lot of heavy fighting up around Liman, Pershi, Crimea line, that direction of the front along the Luhansk-Kharkiv border. In the Liman direction, Ukrainian propaganda channels are claiming a 66-1 casualty rate. That is to say that for every one Ukrainian that perishes on the front line, the Ukrainians are taking out 66 Russians. That's insane. That's insane. Ukraine's 63rd Mechanized Brigade has leveraged the topography. Now, remember, we keep saying this, right? General Sirsky's great claim to fame is his strategic use of topography to create narrow channels through which the enemy is forced to move and establishing them as kill zones. That appears to be happening with extraordinary success in the Le Mans direction. And so the 63rd Mechanized Brigade has leveraged the topography to establish deep fire control zones, creating lethal kill zones in choke points for the Russians. The secret to their success is not merely leveraging the latest and greatest drone technology and night vision and all that shit. No. Do you know what? Of course, all of that matters. I'm not suggesting it doesn't. But the real secret to their success in this direction are caltrops. Now, most of you are saying, what the fuck is a caltrop? Who ever heard of a caltrop? Caltrops are a Roman invention, right? One of the greatest fighting forces in all of history, the Roman legions, made these, well, they look like a tripod, right? So you have three legs, but there's a fourth leg, and instead of legs, they're spikes. So this is a four-pointed spike with rotational symmetry. Whichever way you move it, it looks the same. And these spikes, in the old days, they would get stuck in horses' hooves, disable the horses. Guys would step on them. The guys would be disabled. You run over them with a cart, your wheels get busted up. Right? It's just that simple. Now you imagine an army on foot or on motorcycles and buggies coming across these iron spikes in the road. They're just as damaging today as they were 2,500 years ago when the Romans started using them. It is amazing. It's amazing to me how the Ukrainians not only innovate the 21st century warfare that we're seeing today and change the nature of warfare as they go, but they are unhesitant to look back in the past and see what worked and see if they can't leverage it for something today. Okay. Drone warfare is resulting. So this ancient technology combined with bleeding edge drone warfare is not only resulting in a 66-to-1 casualty ratio along that section of the front line, but we're also seeing lots of POWs come in there. There appears to be a settling sense of despair among the frontline troops in the Le Mans direction. One of the notable changes that we have seen lately there is that instead of prisoners surrendering one or two at a time, in the last 2 weeks, we've seen 3 intact companies of men surrender the whole group, from as small as 7 to as large as 13 men, the group intact surrendering as a unit. Now that's in an army where you don't know who will shoot you if you say the wrong thing. These companies are surrendering en masse, and I think we're going to see more and more of that as the weather starts to get cold this fall. I thought about starting with this. We all know this, because if you follow this channel, you've seen the satellite images. You've seen the satellite images of the Soviet stockpile yards of tanks from before the war. Thousands and thousands of tanks just lined up, right? To today, where those same yards are empty, depleted of their and we know the Ukrainians have destroyed over 11,000 Russian tanks. The Ukrainian School of Economics, or I'm sorry, the Kyiv School of Economics here in Ukraine, say that Russia has effectively depleted the USSR stockpiles. The level of supply to the front line is back to 2022 levels because they just don't have the gear. Now the reality of this is displayed rather starkly in two new vehicles that we've just spotted on the field of battle for the first time in this conflict. A PT-76, which is like an armored personnel carrier, which first made its debut in 1951. We also saw BTR-50, which first made its debut in 1954. Do you guys remember how at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the Russian propagandists kept saying, no, they're sending their shit now. The good weapons they're saving. They're saving the good stuff. They're going to bring out the good stuff any day now. They're going to wipe Ukraine off the map. Well, here we are 3.5 years in. Where the fuck is the good stuff, you guys? Huh? Where's the good stuff? There is no good stuff. There is no good stuff. And that says something, Seawolf. Ha! There is no good stuff. There's nothing fucking left. And it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. Speaking of problems, we have seen problems plague Russian airports, right? Especially in Moscow and Petersburg, where some of Russia's largest airports are and which are consistently closed these days because of Ukrainian drone attacks. Overnight, we saw not airports close as much as one particular airline, Aeroflot, the Russian national airline, become the victim of cyber attacks, shutting them down, causing them to cancel dozens, and over 50 flights were canceled. And then a bunch more were delayed. The attack came from the Ukrainian partisan hacker group, the Silent Crows, along with the Cyber Partisans, which is a Belarusian hacktivist group that is trying to take down the Lukashenko regime and restore the legally elected government of Belarus. So Cyber Partisans and Silent Crows claim that they were in the Aeroflot systems for over a year planning this attack. Not only did they disrupt the active use of the Aeroflot app or the ability of people to check in or find their luggage, they also claim to have destroyed servers and backups of Aeroflot, and it's unclear when service will resume for those guys. So that increasingly, I think, the real beauty of this is that Dmitry Peskov was trying to fly from from Moscow to Petersburg today, and his personal plane was stuck for 4 hours in Moscow before it could finally take off and head to St. Petersburg. Look, I got an update on the Huffmans. You know the Huffmans, they're this Texas couple that just hated the idea that some of their neighbors might be okay with RuPaul story time, that they had to move to Russia to get away from this evil. Out of the frying pan into the fire. Now, they have a YouTube channel, and they post on YouTube all the time. A little over a month ago, the wife gets on there hysterical. Hysterical because her husband signed up to be in the army so that he could expedite their citizenship. Unfortunately, and he's a mechanic, he's a welder and a mechanic, and they promised him a job as a welder mechanic somewhere in the rear. Well, as soon as they signed him up, they said, you're going for 2 weeks of training, then you're going to the front lines to kill Ukrainians. And so she's on YouTube freaking out that they've been betrayed, they've been lied to. like everybody's corrupt in Russia, yada, yada, yada. Well, that fucking video got taken down real fast. And since then, there have only been a couple of videos from Deanna, Mrs. Huffman, about the situation. And they have all been very pro-Russia. Imagine your surprise. Because while you can get online in the United States and talk shit about the US, you don't do that in Russia. No, you don't. So the FSB came knocking on her door. Now today, there was a video released where she's talking to her husband. So if that video is accurate, he's still alive. If it's not the husband, if it's a fake, somebody went to a lot of effort to make the fake, because they discuss very clearly recent events. So it's not like it could be just a conversation she had with her husband a month ago. No, they discuss recent events. So assuming that it's legitimate, and I have really no reason not to, it appears that Derek Huffman is still alive, is still among the living. And I mean, the guy's got 3 daughters. I don't want to see him dead. See, that's the thing, Little Red. AI is a real thing today. It's awfully hard to tell. And certainly the Russian government has the resources to fabricate his end of the conversation. But the only thing is, we have her end as well. And she's very upbeat. She's very positive. It's very, I just don't know. If you believe that the tape is real, then it's likely Derek Huffman is alive. If you believe the tape is a fake, then it's very likely he's not. The fact is that, like with so many Russian issues, we really just don't know. You're not wrong, Courtney. You're not wrong. Russia is on fire today. In Rostov, an ammo dump is cooking off, still burning from last night's Ukrainian drone attack. There's a large-scale fire that is burning out of control. It has spread to the surrounding drought-stricken forest. It's important to recognize that in 10 of the regions of Russia, 10 regions that are responsible for most of the food production for Russia, there's a drought. Wheat harvests in Rostov are expected to be off by 60% this year alone. It's a big deal. In Siversk, a large Russian armored column attack was defeated. This attack is the largest armored column attack that we have seen in a year. 6 tanks, 3 APCs, 6 MTLBs, 41 motorcycles, 12 civilian vehicles, and 2 golf buggies. The attack was repelled. Most of these vehicles were destroyed. But an attack of this size means that the Russians were able to advance across one open field to secure the positions in a new tree line. So that the entire 6 tanks, 3 APCs, 6 MTLBs, 41 motorcycles, 2 golf carts, 12 civilian vehicles, all to advance 100 meters, about the length of a football field. Intense fighting continues with 189 Russian offensive attacks yesterday alone. The pace is slow and attritional, with no substantial progress, except in Sumy, where the Ukrainians have pushed the Russians now back out of 4 villages that the Russians had initially taken in their attack on Sumy. In Volgograd, the oil depot is still burning from last night's attack. In Lithuania, on July 10th, we saw a Russian Gabera drone crash outside Vilnius. Today, we saw another one flying in the skies over Vilnius, and it crashed just outside the city. Now, we don't know, are these drones being intentionally fired at Lithuania as a provocation by the Russians? Or are these Russian drones that were sent into Ukraine that have been diverted with electronic warfare jamming or spoofing and are now just flying randomly across Belarus and landing in Lithuania? We just don't know. Okay. Peskov's plane was diverted. We talked about that. Last thing then. A Russian Su-27 UB was burned on the tarmac by saboteurs inside Russia. The SBU claims that Molotov cocktails were used by partisans to burn the plane on the runway. In a statement from the SBU, they said, quote, resistance to the Kremlin regime is growing every day inside Russia. And they may well be right. We're certainly seeing more and more partisan attacks inside Russia. Okay. So, guys, that's my top line news for tonight. I want to thank, again, Ted Greenow, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Thank you, Ted. He's not here tonight, but we should see him back tomorrow. I don't have any sponsors for the rest of this week. If anybody can see their way clear to sponsor a live, PayPal's in the description. The irony of Molotov cocktails. You're not kidding. Thanks, Travis. Big thanks to Travis, Jay, Pete, Maddie, and Feisty, our moderators, best moderators on the Tickety Talk. Thank you, guys. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, and to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. That Su-27 story, I got that off Nightshade's post today. So if you don't follow Nightshade, give him a follow. He's got a lot of good information there every day that he shares with us. From the video, Nan, because there is video of that Su-27 burning, it appears as though the saboteurs walked right up to the plane. So in the middle of the night, they got onto the territory of the airbase. They snuck up to the plane. They lit their Molotovs and then hit the plane like below. My understanding is below the cockpit where the fuel lines run, something like that. So you burn through the fuel lines, well, then you're done. Okay, so big thanks to everybody that makes all this possible, especially the Patreon folks and people like Ted who sponsor the live. I would not be able to be here without the ongoing support of the Patreons and the live sponsors. So if you like the channel and you want to see us stay on the air, do me a favor, maybe join the Patreon or sponsor a live. Thank you, Alice. Thanks for tuning in. Nice plug, Courtney. I strongly support that message. Same, Feisty, nice. Did I see Trump's armored golf cart? I did not. Does he have an armored golf cart in Scotland? Huh. He better be careful retrieving his own balls because apparently the locals at Turnberry there enjoy taking a shit in the holes, the golf ball. Right, the holes of the golf course. Apparently that is a real thing. Thanks, Scotty. He's cheating all the time. That's all he does is cheat. It's all he knows. It's all he knows. You know, I was going to talk about, I don't know. Never mind. What else is going on? Yeah, you saw the caddy plant a ball for him is what you saw. I saw that video too. Thanks, Scott. Good night in Odessa. Dania. That's not Daniel, is it? Is that my buddy Daniel from Odessa? No, it was just a stupid thing. Never mind, Court. Daniel. Everybody say hey to Daniel. So I was in Odessa Gosh, it must be a year ago, right, Dan? My dear friend Tatiana, who many of you know from Laughter is the Best Medicine, was on tour with her show. It was a Commedia dell'arte piece called Family Album. Big fan of the show. I've seen it a couple times, including in Odessa. And I met Daniel after the show. And the next day, he and his wife very generously spent the day with me, showing me around town, talking about their lives in Odessa and how things have changed. Dude, I should come down to Odessa. I really should. If I'm not, maybe I'll try to do that soon. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, nice to see you, buddy. Give the wife my best. I really appreciate it when Ukrainians tune in. It's very meaningful to me. We're doing okay, Jay boy. How long before Putin tries to annex the lower part of Ukraine? He is doing his damnedest, boy. Hitting Odessa hard, hitting Mykolaiv hard, and doing the most terrible, terrible things in Kherson. Not to mention trying to break into Dnipropetrovsk. So Mike, he's delusional. The guy's delusional. In spite of everything, he's still doing all those other things. As if he can afford it. He can't. He can't. Yeah, no, I should come back to Odessa. We should get together. Okay, what else is going on, guys? We got 4 minutes. Again, big thanks to Ted, who is a sponsor of tonight's live. Thanks to the moderator team. Thanks to Lars with the Discord server, and Nightshade with the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. If you are in Kyiv, on the Book of Faces, I have a group called In Conversation With, where we practice English. It's an English-speaking club kind of thing. So if you're a Ukrainian in Kyiv, look for that group In Conversation With off my Facebook page. And join us. Join us for conversations in English. Thanks, Scotty. 152,000 likes. Wow, that's crazy talk. Well, the cyber attack was done both by Belarusians and Ukrainians, right? The one group is a Belarusian partisan group. The other is a Ukrainian partisan group. What's really good, I think, Nightshade, is to see them working so closely together, right? They have common goals to overthrow Lukashenko and instill democracy in Belarus. That's going to go a long way toward long-term stability and peace in the region. Oh no, Maddie, you must have missed a couple nights last week, because the record now is 230,000. I think. I'd have to ask Lars. I haven't done any cooking lately. No, it wasn't 270, was it? Was it 265? Was it that much? You guys are nuts. You know, Anthony, I pretty much stopped doing any kind of cooking or comedy on here for the most part, because I don't want to confuse people. Even though it's all Ukraine, right? Because If we're cooking with local produce, local food, and trying to adapt it for my Western sensibilities. Comedy, that's all right here done with locals. So it's all Ukraine adjacent, but the channel is about disambiguating Russian disinformation in this imperial war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. And so I think probably it's helpful to keep that focus. I don't know. What do you think? Should I do more cooking? Should we do some cooking shows? All my cooking now is barbecue. It's the summer. Love it. Think so, huh, Don? Yum, yum, yum. When we were working on the Christmas project, right? The cookies for the frontline soldiers. I did a bunch of like cookie recipe videos then. That's true. And that was all, directly for frontline guys. I found a good pizza place, Mike Kelly. Now get this. I finally find a good pizza place, right? Al Forno is the place. Mwah. Magnificent crust, great plum tomato sauce, real mozzarella cheese, real pepperoni. Pineapple is a choice. And most importantly, they have a make-your-own pizza choice. Now, you would think that every pizza place would have a make-your-own pizza. No. No. These are the pizzas we make. You can order. It's very Soviet still here. These are the pizzas we make. You choose one. No, nothing. It's ridiculous. And then it's not even good pizza, right? Al Forno is good pizza, and they have a make-your-own pizza choice. Are you ready for this? You can't get pepperoni on it. The most common topping in the world for pizza is not available if you fucking make your own. You can order a pepperoni pizza, but you can't add anything to it. Or you can order a make-your-own pizza and not get pepperoni. It is mind-numbingly insane. I have never been in a country that was so resistant to taking my money and giving me a service. It's insane here. I tried to order a steak. I was in a steak place, right? My buddy is moving out of town. Him and the wife built a house actually outside of town. And it was their going away thing, right? So we went to the steak place and I tried to order a 500-gram ribeye. And the guy was like, no, that's too big. I can make it 400. These guys cut the steaks themselves. They can make it any size they want. What fucking waiter tells you not to spend another 300 hryvnia because that's too big? Motherfucker, bring me my steak. Now that's an interesting idea. That's how they get you to buy a pepperoni and to make your own. Ugh, it's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. Oh my God, the worst thing? So in the, what the hell? God, I hate these stupid puzzles. Okay, there we go, okay. The worst thing is, on the counter, right, on your counter when you're checking out at any convenience store, there are cigarette lighters right there. I pick up, yes, Tabasco is available here. I pick up a lighter. I tried to buy it 2 weeks ago. It's not in the computer. I can't ring it up. I can't sell it to you. There's no general merchandise button, right? There's nothing she can do. She can't sell me the cigarette lighter. It's 2 weeks later. All those same cigarette lighters are still sitting on that thing. They're not in the computer. They can't be rung up. And she can't sell them. That kind of thing is so common here. They just are not interested. Like, it's unreal. It's unreal. We don't have DoorDash here, Mike. We have Glovo here, or Uber Eats. I use Glovo. Oh, Feisty, get used to it. If you're coming over here, there is no service in restaurants and shops. None at all. I am the real Peter. I am not AI generated. And here's how you know. If you think I'm AI generated, you can go fuck yourself. How about that? All right, kids. I'm going to call it a night. Make it a great day. Talk to you soon.